Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I am so excited that you're here for this month's topic, which is all about body movement. If you have triggers around exercise, or maybe you have a hard time feeling comfortable moving your body in a particular way, or if you simply want to be more embodied, this month is for you. I'm going to be sharing how to think about movement in a totally new and different way that leaves you feeling sensually alive and grounded in your body. So come on, let's jump into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey everybody, it is Mary, and boy, do I have an amazing episode in store for you today. As y'all know, when I have the second episode of the month, I bring on somebody near and dear in my life to have a candid conversation about the month's topic. And this month I decided to bring on my oldest sister, Michael Hyatt Miller. She is so amazing. I have no doubt you are going to fall in love with her. She and I have just such a beautiful, close relationship and really have gone through a lot of similar things together, whether that's our body journey or our success journey. We often get together over a glass of wine and sort of do like dual therapy for one another. It's really a sweet, sweet relationship. But apart from being my amazing older sister, Megan is the Chief Operating Officer at Michael Hyatt and Company, soon to be the CEO. Whoop, whoop, go Megan, go. She is also the co-host of the Lead to Win podcast that she does with my dad, Michael Hyatt, which is consistently featured in the top 100 Apple podcasts. It is fabulous. If you aren't subscribed, go subscribe to the Lead to Win podcast. But as a leader of leaders, she is the grand architect of the Michael Hyatt and Company's successful, achievement-focused culture. Today, she teaches other companies how to practically craft a company culture that makes the double win, winning at work and succeeding at life effortless. She enjoys time with her husband and her 5 children, whom are so precious. I love them so much, my sweet nieces and nephews. And she is just truly one of the wisest people that I know. I can always go to her when I'm having a hard day, and she just kind of sets me straight. She's just one of those people that is so grounded. And I think one of the things that I love most about her is her commitment to not only being a powerful businesswoman, but also a really present mother for her children. And she really seeks to holistically kind of live her life in a way that allows her to thrive in all areas. So I think she's just a great woman, person to bring on the podcast today. So without further ado, get your notes ready, grab your pen, because you're going to be taking all kinds of aha moment notes. But here is my conversation with Megan. Hey guys, it is Mary, and I am thrilled to be with you guys today because y'all know it's the second episode of this month's topic of body movement, where I bring on somebody in my life that I actually have a relationship with that is like close to me, where we have a candid conversation. Oftentimes it's my BFF Lindsley Brooks or my assistant Liz or sometimes Bentley. And I'm excited because in a second, I'm going to tell you who I've got for today. And obviously you know who it is. You heard the intro, but let's take a little rewind and kind of put this into context. So last week we kind of set the foundation of body movement and talked about all the triggers that come up when we think about exercise, moving our bodies. There's a lot there. Like, this is a weighted topic. This is tricky. It's messy. We've got a lot of stuff that we're bringing into the conversation, and yet we were created to move. And so we talked about finding joy in movement and what that looks like, to define your preference, to decide what actually feels good, what gives you energy rather than depletes your energy, what reduces stress rather than adds to your stress, and what you just literally enjoy doing, what you find pleasure in as you move. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back, take a listen, because it really sets the stage for the conversation we're going to have today. And y'all know, I don't know where this conversation is going to go. We're just going to see what comes up. If I know anything about my special guest, there will be a lot of mic drop moments. So grab a pen, grab your paper, She is wise beyond her years. Please welcome my dear eldest sister, Megan Hyatt Miller. Hey, girl.
Hey, Mare. This is so fun. I'm so excited to do this with you.
This is our very first debut episode together.
I kind of can't believe it because we both have podcasts and we've actually talked about doing other episodes together before, and I don't know why we just haven't done it, but here we are.
Here we are. Well, you are an amazing person. Obviously, you're my older sister. I look up to you. And what I love more than anything is that we've been able to share a really beautiful body journey together.
Yes,
you and I are on the same page when it comes to intuitive eating, and I'll just blanket say intuitive moving. I don't even know that's a thing, but we just coined it. So there we go. But I really love the way you approach it, because one of the things that's different about you than me is that you've got 5 kids.
Yeah.
Of all ages. So take us through the family tree real quick.
Yeah. Every time I say this, I'm overwhelmed just thinking about it. I have 5 kids ages 19 to 1. So 19, 17, 12, 10, and 1. Our oldest is college age and has just recently moved out, and then we have a high school senior and middle school, elementary school, and baby. So we really have every stage of parenting. And sometimes my husband Joel and I just look at each other and we're like, what are we doing? Wait, which problem are we solving? Are we doing diapers or college prep or whatever? So
all of the above.
Literally all the above, all the time. It's very busy. I'm also, as you said in your intro, I'm about to become the CEO of our company, Michael Hyatt and Company, and so that's very full as well. And then there's just the real challenge of, in the midst of all that, figuring out how to take care of myself so that I have something to give to the people and the projects that are important to me. And that's been kind of a long journey to figure that out. And I think I'm doing it better than I ever have, but it has been a very imperfect journey. So probably a lot of you listening can relate to that.
Yeah, it's a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah.
Literally so many different things that require 100% of your attention and presence for each different thing, whether it's work, whether it's the kids, whether it's your marriage. I mean, it's just always on, ready for whatever. And there's especially this year, it's crisis after crisis.
Oh yeah.
After crisis. So it's okay. So I think the inevitable question is well, how the hell do you make time to move your body? Where do you fit that in? Tell us what your typical day is.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I actually feel like this has been my best year for moving my body. And I think that's been a survival strategy, honestly. So it really started, first of all, I have been, if I look back at my adulthood, I have been doing some form of exercise on and off and fairly consistently in my adult life. Mostly walking. That is the thing that I always come back to. And I've tried other things, other way more intense things. I've also done, yoga, love restorative yoga. Of course, right now, there's no, or very little anyway, that I've found class yoga. So I'm not doing that at this point. But when COVID happened, probably like a lot of you guys, I just started walking every day because I was like, I gotta get out of the house.
Change it up.
We gotta have something to do with the kids, right? And so every afternoon when we were done with work, of course we're working at home, my husband and I, we would take the kids out and we would go for a walk. And I just, we've been blessed here in Tennessee with beautiful weather all year long. And I think I just kind of fell in love with walking again and just realized at that point it had nothing to do with hey, I'm doing this to lose weight or I'm doing this for any particular goal. It was literally I just need to get out and breathe fresh air and a change of scenery.
Yeah.
So that was really the start of it. But for me, I have always found that morning exercise is the best, with all the kids I have and by the way, 3 of my kids have some special needs. So that's a whole other thing on top of this. So, once the kids get up, it's all bets are off, especially because they're not all going to school, right? So mostly they're home. We have one of our kids that is in school and the rest of them are home. So that makes it challenging too. So for me, it's all about having a realistic morning ritual that is not it's not my best case scenario of what I would do if the stars aligned and the baby slept well and whatever. It's really what works every day, almost no matter what. And then making sure that I'm setting myself up for success by getting up at a certain time, which means going to bed at a certain time, and not planning things that encroach on that time. So I get up in the morning at 5:30. I go to bed early. I'm just like an early to bed, person, and have my kids go to bed early. But I get up, I have my coffee, I plan my day, I do some kind of like spiritual reflection time, and then I go for a walk, or I strength train at home with bands, like the little cheesy bands you can get from Amazon.
Those are great.
And, they really are great. They're so portable. I have a bunch of them. And so that's what I do. I work out for about 45 minutes, and the way I've been able to do that is my husband Joel and I, we have just kind of like agreed together, hey, this is a priority. Both of us want to work out. We can't both do it simultaneously, or at least not until recently. Recently, we hired a nanny, and that's been like very recently. But up until then, all leading up to that was, okay, we got a tag team. So I'm going to go first, and then you're going to go second, or he's going to go in the afternoon. He doesn't mind doing it in the afternoon. I really like in the morning. So that's the way that it worked, was just like, okay, I have to find a time that every day is consistent for me, so I don't have to think about it. I'm not making a decision, am I going to work out today? It's just like the next thing I do. And that's made it really easy, as opposed to like saving it for the end of the day. I have tried that before, and it's like something always happens. Always.
Totally. Well, what I love about what you're saying, which I think is like, it's kind of how I've had to approach it too, that it's a non-negotiable. Like you said, you're not in the decision every day, because that gets really tricky. Like if you wake up in the morning and you're like, do I have time for this today?
Right.
Do I have energy for this today? Kind of like whatever that might be. And you're kind of weighing out pros and cons.
Oh, it's
pretty
terrible.
much you're never going to do it.
Well, the other thing that I think is true, especially for women, I feel like we are making a bajillion decisions every day. Like the number of decisions is just crushing. And it's also like we're doing it from a place of mental and emotional fatigue this year. Like we're not really operating at our fullest and best place of mental, acuity or whatever. Instead, we're depleted. And so when you have to make decisions about things you have to do every day, it's exhausting. It's like you need that energy for the decisions you really do have to make, and if you use up all your energy for the things you really don't, you could kind of automate, then I think that's really difficult too. So that's been a real secret for me with all the decisions and the just general, challenges of life is, okay, what can I automate that I can just say, I'm just doing this every day. I don't have to decide. I'm just doing it,
Well, and you've chosen something, I think too, like walking, that isn't, it's not like, it doesn't require, like, it's not cardio in the sense of you're doing sprints every day or you're doing like really intense workouts. I mean, not only is there research there to back up like one of the healthiest things you can do for your lifetime, like all the way into old age, is to walk. Like over time, that has way more benefits than like short-term intense workout. So I love that you've chosen something too that isn't in like the space of fatiguing yourself physically when you're already fatigued mentally and emotionally, even though like sounds like sometimes you maybe do that with some weights. But that it's sort of like restorative.
I always end more energized than I start. I mean, that, I think we'll probably get into this in a little bit, but one of the biggest reasons that I think I've been successful with consistent exercise is that I genuinely love it. I don't love it for what it does for me. Like if I didn't lose 1 pound from exercise, it doesn't even matter to me. That's not even on the list of motivations for me. The motivation is that I feel great when I do it. I feel empowered when I do it. I feel, this is also part of kind of the COVID thing, was like, okay, this is not going away anytime soon, in case, we haven't noticed, right? Like, who knows? I mean, we may be in this another year, or who knows? I mean, it's anybody's guess. I have to be able to show up strong. I can't show up in survival mode. I can do that for like 6 months. Even that was pushing it. I cannot do that for like 2 years or a year or whatever. Like it's just, it's impossible. We're not made to stay in survival mode. And so I just decided, as crazy as maybe it sounds, like I'm going to have to prioritize my own self-care, my own strengthening. Like I'm going to have to practice resilience every day so that I can actually be resilient for my real life. And so exercising for me not only feels great, not only helps me deal with stress, which I know we may talk about also later. It's also like practice for life. And I feel like when I'm done exercising, I'm ready for my day.
Yeah.
No matter what comes. And sometimes it's nuts, you know?
Yeah. A lot of days it's nuts.
A lot of days.
And what I love too, and I don't know if people don't know who you are, you know, one of the things that we've shared in our journey is we've both lived in larger bodies.
Right.
And we've both been, I mean, if we look at the trajectory or the kind of rewind our lifespan, we've been all different shapes and sizes, all different weights. Like,
yes,
you know, for me, I think at my largest, maybe I was a size like 18 or 20, you know, and I had to learn how to move my body at that size.
Yes.
And in a way that was comfortable, because at the time, like, it was really like, even walking would have been really painful for my knees at that time. Like, I just have always kind of had issues with my knees. So for me, when I started doing water aerobics with geriatrics. Like, literally there was not a person in the pool under the age of 70 and
Amazing. Me. Right.
And
they probably loved you.
Oh, it was like, and I love them. I called them the Q-tips. It was like, it was like my favorite. Like, gotta go to the, you know, the pool with the Q-tips. And, but I fell back in love with movement because I was doing something that, like, I felt like I could do for the size that I was at. And then as I've lost weight based on just really dealing with a lot of the emotional stuff that was contributing to the weight gain that I had gained, I've been able to kind of experiment with different things. And I love the feeling of being strong.
Me too.
Like,
love it.
And I felt that way, you know, like at every kind of stage along my journey within my body, that has been sort of the, I don't even know how to say it. Like, the one thing that I keep going back to, like, forget the weight loss. Like, I just want to feel strong.
Right. Well, I mean, I just feel like badass, like that.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of places in your life, in your normal life, unless you're like some kind of competitive athlete or doing something really risky on a regular basis. I mean, you know, most of life is like kind of ordinary and a little bit mundane, not even in a bad way. It's just like, you know, it's just made up of ordinary stuff. And so to have that moment of like the endorphin rush, I can tell that I'm getting stronger because, like, I can do something. I can go up a hill that before I've been really winded at the, you know, at the end of. Yeah. That feels so empowering. Like, you just feel proud of yourself in a way that, I don't know. I just feel like we don't really think about that a lot. You know, when you're talking, the other thing I was thinking of was about just the joy of movement at different sizes. I think this is one of the things we have to recover as adults because, like, my youngest daughter, Naomi, is 18 months old. And she's like a wild woman. Like, that girl, if she's awake, literally, and you guys who have toddlers know this, she is moving. Like, she never sits down. She never stops. She loves to dance. She loves to, like, you know,
Energizer Bunny.
I mean, just nonstop. And I think that is like our natural state. Before we were self-conscious about our bodies, before people told us what we could and couldn't do, before, you know, we felt shame, we love to move. Like, that is the natural state of being a human, is loving to move. And I kind of feel like this work is all about coming back to that part of ourself that can experience the joy of movement, because it actually is joyful. If you're not punishing yourself, if you're not pushing too hard, and, you know, the motivation is not coming from shame, if it's really coming from a place of love, and it's something that you discover that you enjoy. And I do think that's a process of discovery. Yeah. Honestly, this can be something that you love and that you will do for the rest of your life because it makes you feel great. Like, it's just inherently rewarding.
It totally is. And, you know, I was just thinking, we've been to several yoga classes together.
Yeah.
And so you and I practice different styles of yoga.
Yeah. I basically practice napping with friends. That's what I practice.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, when I went to the restorative class, I was like, oh, this is nap time. Like, this is amazing. And you know what I loved about that? It was like, there was no like prerequisite rules on, hey, this has to hit X amount of boxes in order to count as movement. No. It was like, I am here with my body, connecting with it, being gentle with it, listening to it, really rejuvenating, recovery. And I just love that. It's like taking off that it has to look a certain way in order to really just like do what feels good.
Right.
At the end of the day. Right. Okay. I want to transition into something because you mentioned motivation. Yeah. And you said, okay, it can't be motivation from shame. It has to be motivation from love.
Yeah.
And let's talk about motivation, because when I work with clients who get this as a concept, theoretical concept, like, yes, moving is good for my body. Yes, moving is good for my health. They might even say something like they want to do it, but then the sentence that comes after that is, but I don't know how to get the motivation to do it. I'm not motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you and I have talked a lot about this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's such a misconception that we have to be motivated to move our bodies. So
Mm-hmm.
I think you say this really, really well. And I'd love for you to demystify the myth of needing motivation and just kind of share your way of going about it that's different than that. Hey, y'all. I'm sure you've been hearing me mention my Fully Alive Circle membership, and you might be wondering what it is and how you can join. So let me tell you a little bit about it. So the Circle membership is a safe place for women to gather together in a heart-centered community to take this deep dive into personal transformation. So it's my online membership where you'll learn how to find yourself again through daily devotional practices. Inside of our private Facebook group, I share resources like guided meditations, yoga practices, essential oil recipes, journal prompts, and so much more that dive into our monthly topic that we explore right here on the Living Fully Alive podcast. And all those resources are delivered to your inbox weekly to help you create powerful change in your life. So if you're looking for an affordable way to continue your journey of living fully alive, then definitely check out the Fully Alive Circle membership. Just go to maryhyatt.com/circle and you can find out all the details and join. All right, now back to this week's episode.
Well, I think that motivation is kind of like a psychological barrier that we put up sometimes that is too high for ourselves. You know, it's sort of like if you think about the people in your life that you love, if you're a parent, your children, maybe it's your closest friends, maybe it's your partner, like, do you always feel like so motivated to do great things for them? I mean, like, no. Like, if I was waiting till I was motivated to make my kids dinner at night, like, I'd have a lot of hungry kids, a lot of cranky, hungry kids. And so I really think that, and this idea is not original to me, but that motivation is not a prerequisite. You can just like free yourself from needing to feel a certain way before you can take a certain kind of action. And I think the motivation and the kind of excitement about it is sort of the reward of doing it. It's not necessarily what happens first. It's kind of like, when people want to do something brave, and I can relate to this because I have anxiety about all kinds of stuff. Like, I want to feel brave before I do it. I would really like to I would like the fear to be gone. Right. So that I can do the thing that I'm afraid of doing without fear. And then like, yay, I did it. Right.
Yeah.
Except that is not how it works at all. We have to do the brave thing. And then like the courage, the feeling of courage or that confidence, that's the reward for having done it. And eventually, you do it enough and then you mostly feel confident, but it's never works like that on the front end. And I think that's true for motivation too. Motivation is kind of the reward. It's not the prerequisite. I also think that a lot of what we experience as a lack of motivation, I'm like doing air quotes, like you guys can see me. I know you can't, but is a result of what we're thinking, and totally. One of the people that we listened to on this topic was talking about this week in a podcast, just how, if you are like dreading going on a walk, let's say, or I don't know, whatever it is for you, you're going to do. It's because of how you're thinking about it. It's not because going on a walk is terrible. It's because you have all these like negative beliefs and associations around going on a walk. Like, it's boring or it's not fun or you're not going to enjoy it. It's going to be hard or you're going to feel embarrassed or the clothes aren't going to feel good or I don't know what, you could probably, everybody listening could probably make their own list. But I think that's why we don't do it. It's not that actually it's hard. I mean, certainly you could pick something that's terribly hard and, who would want to do it. I've done that myself, but I mean, there's a way to do it that isn't any of those things. And so I think a lot of it is about coming up with better thoughts. Like for me, my motivation is, hey, I'm a really busy mom with a business that I'm running and, a bunch of employees and all this. And for me, that is my only time to myself where like literally I'm with no one in the day. I mean, that is like gold. That's my time when I get to listen to books. I don't get to read outside of that, right? Like, I mean, who has time for that when you have a bunch of kids? That's when I get to read, listen to audiobooks and podcasts. That's when I come up with ideas for my business. I feel super empowered and creative when I come back, ready for my day. Like, that's why I do it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I've really worked to not only have different thoughts, but like notice the crummy ones that come up, and that's normal and it's fine. You don't have to worry about it. You know, like you're not trying to get rid of those. You're just trying to also think better, more empowering thoughts that feel true to you. And that has totally worked for me.
It's so powerful. We talk about this a lot on the podcast of just how you narrate something in your mind ahead of time is going to affect how you feel.
Yes.
Like, your thinking generates emotions.
Yes.
A feeling. And so it's like, if you're thinking this is going to be miserable, I'm going to look stupid, all of a sudden you're going to feel like crap. You're either going to have shame, you're going to feel pressured, you're going to feel guilty. And none of those are going to motivate you.
Right. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that whether you did that consciously at the beginning or now you're sort of aware of the process, I really think that this is something that we can intentionally do and curate.
Yes.
And say, okay, if I were somebody who loved to move, if I were somebody who looked forward to moving, if I was somebody that made movement a non-negotiable, how would I think about it? Mm-hmm. It's almost like reverse engineering it. Yes. Like, I think about that, like going ahead of time and thinking through like, okay, how would I want to be thinking about this if I were somebody who fell in love with movement? Because you might not be at that place yet.
Sure. Which is
fine. But
you
can practice thinking as though you were somebody who did love it.
Well, one of the things that I think is true about people who consistently move, if you think about friends that you have or, you know, just people that you know who are consistently moving, it is like super low drama. It's like brushing your teeth. I mean, people that move regularly, it's just, they're not obsessed with it. They're not spending a lot of time, you know, agonizing over the decision every morning. Like, they're just doing it just like they get their coffee and they brush their teeth and they plan their day and they answer their email. Like, it's just one more of the things that they do, and it's just integrated into their life. And I think that so often we amp up the drama and we put all this emotional pressure on ourselves. Like, it means so much and it's blah, blah, blah. And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
You know, and we can just like decide not to do that. It's like we never agonize about whether or not we're going to brush our teeth.
Right.
No one has ever sat there at the bathroom counter at, 9 p.m. and been like, do I have the energy to do this? Is this congruent with myself? Do I want to do it? Like, there's no existential crisis. You just brush your teeth.
Well, and I think what's so fascinating, I'm just kind of having this aha moment of like the thoughts that we think around exercise, that this has been fed to us. The drama piece of it has been fed to us from diet culture. We know that. But like, if you think about any diet program or exercise program, or even just like, get your pre-baby body back or whatever, there's always a conversation in those programs about how hard it's going to be.
Right. Like, you got to like gin up all this like motivation and intensity to meet the challenge. And it's like, what if it actually wasn't that hard?
Yeah. Like, why are we accepting that as like part of it, that it doesn't have to be? And I love what you said about, this is just what I do.
Yeah.
And to me, it goes back to, I know I talked to you about this, Megan, a lot, of like the identity piece, who we see ourselves as. Like I am someone who moves.
Right.
Like, I identify with somebody who regularly moves. And because I think it's Tony Robbins, he says, and y'all know, I probably quote this like all the time, is one of my favorite quotes, where he says, the greatest human need is to stay consistent with how we define ourselves.
Yeah. That's sobering.
It is sobering. So it's like, if I identify myself as somebody who has a really hard time moving or working out, or I just can't figure it out, well, then I'm never going to figure it out because I'm a person who can't figure it out. Versus my identity is somebody who moves. It's like, well, that's just what I do. It's just part of who I am.
Right.
And then it's not like, again, it takes away that, should I do it? Should I not? It's just like, this is who I am. Just as like somebody who, like you said, think about anything you do kind of as a regular routine, autopilot. Like, you're somebody who brushes your teeth because you're somebody who brushes their teeth. Like,
right. Because you're not someone who has bad breath all the time.
Right. Like, okay, great. Like, I
easy
baseline health, right? I love it so much. So let me ask you this, because I think this was a powerful story you shared with me last week about a really stressful experience that you had at work.
Yeah.
And you were able to get to the place of using movement to complete the stress cycle.
Yes.
And I kind of teased this on the last podcast episode, but I was like excited to talk to you about it because I think this is a really brilliant concept.
Yeah.
That is also kind of like puts fuel on the fire of it being empowering. So walk us through what happened, your like victory moment.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I just want to like give credit where credit is due. So this is not my concept at all. This comes from a book called Burnout, and I cannot remember the authors, but Brene Brown recently did a podcast with the authors, two sisters. There are some things that I don't particularly love about this book, but this concept of completing the stress cycle is like worth the price of admission. And if you just listen to that part or read that part, it would be worth getting because it's a big idea. So, I'll explain the concept and I'll tell you the story. So the concept is that, you know, there are kind of two components of stress. One is the stressor, the thing that is causing the stress. So like not knowing election results, that would be a stressor. And then there is the stress itself, which is presumably the result of the catalyst or the stressor. And we often conflate those things, like they're the same thing. So like we think if we remove a stressor from our life, like we now, as of this day, now we, tentatively know who's won the election, then we no longer experience the stress of that. But it's not true because that's not biologically how our bodies respond. So even though that like intellectually makes sense, it doesn't make physiological sense. And what happens instead is that our physical bodies don't understand that those two things are separated.
Like the threat is gone, or
like they don't get that the threat is gone. Our brain is like, doesn't know that the threat's gone. It's still stuck in stress. It still thinks, it's still anxious. It's still on edge. It's still hypervigilant, all that fight, flight, or freeze stuff. And so the question is, first of all, we can't always control the stressor, right? Like we can't make the election results be known, or we can't necessarily remove, like in my case, having special needs children, I can't like remove that as a stress in my life, a stressor in my life, but I can deal with the stress. And so biologically, our bodies need to complete the stress cycle, as these authors talk about in the book Burnout. And normally the way we would have done this, like, way back in the day, as my kids would say, back in like the beginning of time, is like you would literally run from the bear. And so like in running from the bear, you like process those hormones and the physiological impact of stress on your body. You run away from the bear, and then you like go to your village and you like scream and shout that you made it like from the bear and you didn't die, and like you dance around with like your fellow villagers, right? And you're like, great, you move on, to the next thing. Except we don't do that. We don't have a natural way to do that now. And when you move your body, you actually simulate the running from the bear. You don't actually have to run. Apparently it can be any kind of movement, dance, like whatever you want it to be. Shake it out, scream it out, like whatever, they give lots of examples in the book of this, but that you can actually process stress in your body every single day so that you don't have this kind of like stacking effect of stress in your body where you get chronic illness and all kinds of things, which is very familiar to us. So like the antidote to chronic stress, which P.S., also known as 2020.
Yeah, I was gonna say reality
is movement, So my story is that recently I was negotiating a big deal. It was challenging at the end, as they often are, and I had to have a call and kind of really like hold my ground on some stuff. And I was nervous about it, and I was also just kind of like amped, like it's just a high stress situation. It's like really coming down to the wire. How's it going to go? High stakes kind of situation. Everybody's counting on me to do it. And I had like 30 minutes between the last call that I had and this call, which is the last thing I was going to do for the day. And I was like, I have got to like move. It was like almost like compulsive. I was like, I got to get out and move. And I just like threw my running shoes on and I walked out the door and like I cranked up my workout playlist as loud as I could tolerate it, which is mostly like rap, and I just like hauled. Like I walked as fast as I probably have ever walked. I felt like I could have gone twice as fast. It was like I was just high on adrenaline, I think.
Man.
And it was so great because when I finished, it was like 30 minutes was all I had. I had to come back. I was like watching my watch, for this call. And I was so focused. I was so clear. I was present to myself, and it all worked out. And I just thought, what a great way, instead of having that anxiety like negatively take over my body, I was able to process it and complete that stress cycle and show up in the way that I needed to. And so for me, what a great part of movement that we never think about.
It's so powerful. Like it's so funny just hearing you share that story. I sort of had this moment of feeling that same experience in my body where you're just like going and it's just all amped up. Yeah. And it's like in those moments, I feel like warrior, goddess, queen. You know what I mean? You're like, you know, just like so powerful.
Yes.
And that is a very challenging sensation or experience or emotion to get to when you're in sort of the mundane everyday life of like making food for your kids or going through the motions and doing this. And yet we need to be able to access that inside of ourselves. Like that part is a part that could handle that negotiation and have a strong boundary and not be taken advantage of and be able to use your voice, speak your voice, all of those things. And like, to me, it's like you had to get in that state.
Yes.
Like not only was it completing the stress cycle, but it was also helping you step up in the state of that powerful powerhouse woman.
Right. It was kind of like my physical body did what my mind needed to do at the end. It was like my body got there first. And I think this is something that we forget so often in our culture, especially now. Everything's so virtual. It's so digital. Like we are not embodied. We are not like connecting the dots between what's happening in our head and our physical body. And there's another great thing about movement is that it helps to integrate our physicality with our mind so that we are like back integrated together and embodied instead of like a little head floating around, which is what it can feel like. So that's what I feel like sometimes, you know.
It grounds you. I mean, it really, like you said, it gets you in your skin. It gets you going, oh, wait a second.
Which is powerful.
It is so powerful. I mean, like if I wasn't a life coach and what I would do, I probably would just teach that concept of like embodiment because it's it's that life-changing.
Yes.
It's that powerful. I want to hit one more thing with you before we wrap up. And that is this idea of visualizing your future physical self.
Yeah.
And because I think sometimes we get stuck in the here's where my body's at now and here's the limitations that I feel. And that sometimes doesn't feel empowering. It's like, well, my knees hurt or, you know, I can't lift 20 pounds or whatever it is. And so we oftentimes can focus in on like the part of ourselves that isn't a strong, whatever person. And yet I think having this vision of what our bodies could be and sort of like the best case scenario are like, if we were really in our power, what that could look like. And I remember you sharing this on a Marco Polo the other day and I was like, yes, get it, girl. And so like, who just as like a demonstration of what this looks like.
Yeah.
Who is your future, like badass physical self?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you can't see me, and I guess maybe I'll have my picture up or whatever so people will be able to see that. But I'm like 5'4", and I'm like a size 16 1X. So like just have that in your mind. Okay. So like that like pretty regular person, like just your average like mom at the grocery store. But what I envision for myself as I have like really fallen in love with movement is like I want to be some kind of athlete. I don't really know what that looks like, especially in 2020, 2021, but I want to push my body. Ultimately, I can't do this yet at the level that I want to, but I want to push my body and see what it's capable of. Again, not because I just like want to be thinner or whatever, because it feels so amazing to feel strong, and how I show up in the rest of my life is amazing. Like whether that's like, those events called Tough Mudder, where whatever, do all that stuff. I thought about that. I've actually in my past, I've run, several half marathons. I've had a lot of injuries, so I'm not sure I really want to do much running as a regular thing, but there's something about setting a big goal for yourself and then watching yourself rise to the occasion in ways that like you have to become somebody different in order to do that. And that is so exciting. And
Yeah.
like, I literally think about this every day, not because I have it like clear yet what the thing is going to be, but when I'm working out and I'm like listening, you know, to my rap, like so loud that I can't even like hear my kids if they come in and talk to me, and they scare me sometimes. Like it totally happens in our rec room, you know, but like I'm that person in my mind when I'm
Totally.
working out, and it feels so amazing. In fact, the other day, this is kind of embarrassing, but it's funny. So I didn't have time to take a shower the other day, and I didn't really have very many meetings. So I was like, it's fine. I'll just like, you know, wear my workout clothes. And it just happened that what I pulled out was like some black leggings, which, you know, are ubiquitous at this point in 2020, and a black kind of like fitted t-shirt. And I just got some new, running shoes that are like dark. And anyway, and I just like walked past the mirror and I was like, dang girl, like you look tough. Like you look so tough. And I just felt like the athlete that I am becoming. Now, I'm not that person fully yet. I mean, I'm probably 2 years out from that person.
Yeah.
And that's fine with me. Like, I'm not in a hurry. I don't feel anxious about it. It's not about shame. It's just like every day I'm connecting with my potential and my future self. I'm moving a little closer to her, and I'm bringing my physical self into more congruence with my full potential. And that is like so empowering. It's so awesome.
Yeah, because my guess is, I mean, I actually know the answer to this, but you're doing this in every other area of your life.
Yeah. Right.
You know, like you're thinking about like who you want to be as a businesswoman and a leader of this company,
right?
What that looks like 5 years from now, you know,
Totally.
what it looks like to be a mom 5 years from now.
Yes.
And Naomi is 5 or 6. Oh my gosh, I can't handle it. Y'all just stalk Megan on Instagram, even though she's not technically on anymore.
You'll have to see old pictures because I decided to get off social media, but you can see
Oh
some
my
old
God,
ones.
she's so
cute.
precious. But like you're already doing this.
Right.
And I think people do like, and it's so interesting to think about it from this point of view versus like the short term, like, hey, I want to lose 5 pounds, or New Year's resolutions that are like, you know, really intense, really short lived,
not realistic at all.
Not realistic, backfire. Yeah. It's like, no. What does it look like to grow into this part of yourself that is your highest potential, not related to a short term goal, but like how good can it get?
Right.
Like how strong could I feel?
Right.
And that's a whole different kind of conversation.
It really is.
A result kind of focused thing.
Well, like I saw this Instagram video. I think it was actually somebody, I don't know if it was somebody you sent me, or I don't know. It was in a conversation that we were having. So it may have been you, or may have been something I searched for. But this woman was doing like, I don't even know what you call it, where you like, you're like doing an ab thing and you like pull your legs up high, like you're hanging from, you're holding like a rope overhead and you're like pulling your legs up, you know, like above your belly button. And she was like jacked. I mean, this woman was intense. Like she was so strong. And I didn't look at her and think, gosh, I need that body. Like that body is everything, and whatever it takes, or I'll never have it. I'm going to give up. It was like, not that. That wasn't what it was. It was just like, wow, she's so strong in her body. And I want to be able to like have my version of that. Like I want someday to just be like, this is what this body is capable of. This body that has been with me through 5 kids and, you know, difficulty and struggle and triumph. Like this body at 40 years old, this is what this body is capable of, because I turned 40 this year. You know, I don't have to like just sort of like accept that it's going to get worse and harder and weaker and whatever. Like my best days of my body can be in the future, not in the past.
Preach it.
Preach it.
I mean, so good. So good. And like, I'm just thinking the power of looking at someone who has a different body than you further along in the journey.
Totally different body than me.
But to even go like to identify yourself in her.
Yeah. Right.
Versus it being like
threatening or something.
Invitation to shame. Yeah. It's like actually like this was a big shift for me. If she can do it, I can do it.
Exactly. That's what I thought.
Like, and I find for me, I have to find women online who are curvy, who are thick, and who are strong. Like, I'm not, you know, when
you did send me that one girl. I don't know who that was, but that might be interesting. Like to share her Instagram, you know, stuff, because like I was like, yeah, totally. I'm here for that.
And you're like, she's so sexy.
Yeah.
And I just am like, wow, like just, again, it's just like that strength and there's something about the femininity piece of this, of like being in your body. It's a whole other conversation,
right.
But it's just, there's power there. There's strength there. Man, well, this was better than I could have hoped for.
So fun.
I love it. Well, you're not on social media.
I know. Sorry. It's kind of actually like lame. There's not a lot to tell you.
Typically I'm like, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on the podcast that I do with our dad. It's called Lead to Win. You can just find it. You can find it on, any podcast app you have, but you can also go to michaelhyatt.com/lead to win. But anyway, yeah. Or at michaelhyatt.com.
Totally. And I'll link to all of that. And y'all, that podcast is amazing. I mean, it's just what I love about it is just so practical. Yeah. So just here's the steps. I mean, it's just, there's not a whole lot of fluff. I mean, it's very get into that place of execution. So if you own your own business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are a business exec, if you don't even know who my dad is, what planet are you on? Let's start there. But go listen. It's fun. Little dad-daughter duo. Well, sis, thank you. So fun.
Let's do it again.
All right, guys, y'all know we've got 2 more episodes left in this month's topic of body movement. So bookmark it, share this episode with a sister, with a cousin, with a friend, with a girlfriend who needs to hear this conversation. And to remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. I'll see y'all next week. Bye. Hey y'all, thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.